Only yesterday, the Foreign Secretary he emphasized the point that he feels that the war is not one without end. And Prime Minister Gordon Brown is still trying to convince people that we should be in Afghanistan. Now, looking at the recent presidential election and Hamid Karzai, his swearing in, which the Foreign Secretary David Miliband will be going for, do you think this is really going to stabilize things in Afghanistan?
Can we have stability under Hamid Karzai, right? Is that your question?
That is my question. Do you think there could be stability under Hamid Karzai, looking at the fact that in the 1990s he had actually supported the Taliban before moving across the border and changing his standing to what was happening in Afghanistan?
Fantastic. Atif Ali.
Well, this is the biggest question throughout the Muslim world, not just Pakistan, relevant to Pakistan or Afghanistan. The biggest challenge that we face as a nation is the corruption and the illegitimate governments which has no dependency upon their own people. Like their own nations does not endorse them. That's why they have to look towards foreign powers to support their government. This is what's happening with the Karzai. This is what's happening with our current president, Asif Ali Zardari. People are sick and tired of the governments that are installed upon them without their own input in it. Coming back to Karzai, it's not the first time that we have seen in Afghanistan how quickly these warlords or governing bodies change their sides depending on which side is succeeding. Coming on the British side as well, we have seen that as they are recently, Miliband has announced another is confusing policy about Afghanistan, that if you can't beat them, bribe them. If the money is the god, then this god has to change hand many times. If they can pay the money and to buy these warlords on their side, trust me, this narco economy that's going on in Afghanistan can pay far more.
What's wrong with buying them off? It's better than bombing them,
If they can buy them, then the other side can buy them as well. So
we've got more money than they have.
Let the best democracy of dollar can buy, then if that's a maximum supplier here, then it definitely apply Afghanistan. The best warlord a dollar can buy.
OK, Akram Khani, your leader was once described as Mr 10%, and then it went up to Mr 20%, and I think he's now Mr 30% in some quarters. This is a reference to the amount of money he'd cream off from various contracts. I mean, surely that is the problem. These people are utterly corrupt.
First, no, it's like you said, 10%, 20%, 30%. I must say to you that all those sort of percentage is gone now.
So it's free.
On gone. You know why? Because now he is president of Pakistan.
So he was. You're accepting he was Mr 10%.
I will tell you. No, I will tell you what he was.
Okay.
And as a Westerner, I think you believe in the courts. And he was in the courts, through the courts, I think enough years. I think he spent it in the jail.
Yeah.
And I think if you give him for his corruption, I think a lot less than what he already got.
Okay, so he's paid for his crimes and he's going straight.
This is what I'm saying to you.
Okay.
That
you're very confident with libel laws, aren't you?
all these charges in Pakistan, like now you see, Hamid Karzai was the messenger of God for the West.
Yeah.
And now, what he is?
Yeah.
He's a corrupt man.
Okay,
because West don't like it.
Oh, I see. So the charge of corruption is a
now
false...
they like maybe Abdullah, maybe they like Mr. XYZ.
So you're saying the charge of corruption...
That is going to be the toppest man in the world.
You're saying the charge of corruption is a false one levelled by the West just because they've turned against him politically?
Who?
Is that what you're saying, that against Karzai?
This is what I'm saying. Karzai. West have their own goals, they have their own plans, and they sometimes like this thing, they come up, all the media, everybody is coming out and saying good thing about this, and they make in one day top of the world. Oh, that is... So this is what they've been doing with us, with our country as well. And so here, this is about Karzai, and you will see Karzai. Like Karzai, this is what I'm saying, because I struggle against the military dictatorship back in in my country with General Zia.
So he's a rough
So
done.
I know the General Zia was supported by the West and USA.
Okay.
And
All
I've
right.
been in jail 10 times.
All right.
I got lashes. I destroyed, my house was destroyed, everything.
Okay.
On that time. I know the pain. And
All
this
right.
is what West is doing now. Now Karzai, you put Karzai on the top of the one people.
Okay.
Sometimes you put Abdullah on
So
the top of the...
it's not really about him,
This
it's
is
about
not
the West. Okay.
This is not the answer.
Let me bring in Lindsay
in my
Chairman.
point of
Let me
view-
bring in Lindsay Chairman.
Can I come in? Because
give a clear
the
answer.
question was that does Karzai make Afghanistan, is it possible to have stability? And I don't believe it is possible. I absolutely agree that the West at times will talk about corruption with Karzai and other times they haven't. I mean, the idea that this election was a shock to the British and American government simply isn't true. They knew very well what a corrupt election it would be. They knew what a corrupt leader he was, and they were prepared to put up with it. George Bush tried to get rid of him before he left office last year, but didn't succeed. They were prepared to put up with it. Now it's gone too far. And the idea that David Miliband is going to turn up in Kabul with a kind of Ofsted for corruption levels in Karzai's government is simply ludicrous, as is the whole role of the
Nobody would
British
dispute
government.
Karzai is corrupt, but is he worse than what would replace him?
Well, let's just follow on about the British government, because they are saying they are going to talk to the Taliban. They did talk to the Taliban last year, brokered by the Saudi government. This is going on, and it will happen. Believe me, every war ends in negotiation.
Okay, but
and
is
this
Karzai worse than what would replace him if he went?
He's just as bad. I mean, people talk about women's rights. He allowed a law to be passed which allows rape in marriage for women. All the indicators of women's rights in Afghanistan shows at best no progress, and even in some situations more forced marriage, more breakdown of society, partly because of the war. You know, this is the situation. It isn't a better government. It isn't a democratic government. And it is a complete lie to people in Britain to pretend, as our government does, that somehow this is all getting a little bit better. It isn't.
Sam Kiley, I'm going to bring in Sam Kiley first and then I'll come back to you, Atif. I pretty generally conceded that the election was disgracefully fraudulent. Karzai is incredibly corrupt. Is really getting rid of him a prerequisite for any progress?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I would argue that and I've been covering conflicts for 30 years all over Africa, and I've seen this time and time and time again in Africa and the Middle East and elsewhere, where the West sponsor an election, the election's a mess. Rather than put their hands up and say, it's a mess, start again, let's make it a UN-mandated territory, let's not... You know, people in Afghanistan risk their lives to cast their votes, and then to have it a complete kind of dog's dinner served up to them and ask them to accept the democratic process is insulting to their intelligence. And that does inflame the hypocrisy there. One cannot underestimate how dangerous that is. Well, because, and this is the point I really would like to make, and it's kind of my, in a sense, it's my concluding point. Throughout this debate, there's been we have implied, well, I haven't, but everybody else has implied, a Machiavellian genius on the part of the West in all of these things. Now, since Mogadishu in 1991, I have seen firsthand every single one of these Western interventions, and you simply cannot underestimate how completely bone-stupid people
are. So they're just
are.
Machiavellian, not genius.
No. If only there was a brilliant CIA plot. If only the neocons were not morons. If only there was some brilliant evil genius, you know, stroking a cat and figuring it all out. That would be great. The reality is, the reason we are where we are in Afghanistan is that the people behind making the decisions are a bit thick.
So what can we do?
Well, I mean, you know, what we have to do is project the power down into the local communities all over Afghanistan and empower the traditional leaderships and work up from the Shura to regional lawyer jirgas. And above all, if we're going to use military force, cut the heads off every single gangster in the country. And I mean quite literally, because what we don't understand, and your point about the Taliban is absolutely well made, it's a word we use because we don't really know what the hell to call them. But the narco barons are, particularly in Helmand, where the real fighting is where the drug labs are, not where the Taliban is.